question that's been asked by a huge YouTuber by the name of Coryxkenshin, who has over 14 million subscribers. And, you know, honestly, when I first heard about this, my immediate thought was, no, YouTube is obviously not racist. Now I'm really not so sure, and I think by the end of my video, you might not be so sure. In this video by Cory, he claims that YouTube has a favoritism problem and potentially a racism problem. And let me break this down for you, because let me go ahead and tell you right now, does YouTube have a favoritism problem? Yes, absolutely. I have been on both receiving ends of that. There was a period of time where my videos were completely demonetized. Then they reached out to me. I got to know people at YouTube. I was getting Google preferred ad tiers. My channel was getting pushed in the algorithm. I was getting invited to cool places to do cool stuff. And then when my bubble burst, everything changed. I didn't get those invites anymore. I didn't get to go to cool places anymore. I didn't get the premium ads anymore. And my channel didn't get pushed in the algorithm anymore. That has absolutely happened to me. And look, if you don't believe my personal experiences, let me just go ahead and say you've seen evidence of it. You guys remember when Juice WRLD met members at the YouTube policy team and the YouTube team, and they told them, you know, your channel's not doing that good. We really should make sure we pump up those numbers. And it really did sound like they are saying we have a way to make sure that your channel appears more often. And if that tool exists, then obviously there's ways to tweak the algorithm to make certain channels or certain topics not appear that often. That's absolutely something they do. You just have to know that by now. But in this example of favoritism, Cory was playing a fairly popular game, the Mortuary Assistant. But in this example of favoritism, Cory was playing a fairly popular game, Mortuary Assistant, and in this game it deals with some very mature themes, and one of his videos got age-gated. He ended up appealing that, by the way, and we'll talk about appeals eventually, but they are pretty much pointless. But he ended up appealing it, and they stuck with their decision based on a certain section of the video. So he went to look at other YouTubers who had played the same game and played through that same moment, and realized that, of course, Markiplier had a video of him playing through that exact moment, and guess what? Mark's video was not age-gated. And if this sounds familiar to you, it's because the exact same thing happened to Charlie. He ended up making a reaction video to a public freakout, which was clearly, obviously fake. It got age restricted as well. He did a bit of research. Turns out Markiplier had uploaded the same video, reacted to it in the same way, and Mark's had not been flagged. And the YouTube policy team eventually made the dumb decision to remove Charlie's flag, and that proved, you know, Critical's innocence originally. But then in the end, they made the decision to flag both videos. Which, again, since it was an obviously fake freakout, just seemed like an overreaction. So going back to Cory points out to the policy team that, hey, you know, Markiplier's video is not age restricted and it's got the exact same content in it. So guess what YouTube does? They lifted Cory's age restriction. They used another person's, quote, innocence, end quote, to prove his innocence and allow him to go back to not having this flag on his channel. Now that just goes to show you how badly they do not want to make Markiplier look bad. How badly they do not want to affect Markiplier in the algorithm. Why they don't want to age restrict Mark's videos. And I get it. I get it. He's the poster boy for YouTube gaming. He is golden. He is perfect. He's basically never screwed up and probably never will. So you're obviously going to want to treat him right and treat him well. He's made you maybe $1 billion at this point because he's made billions of views. But also, using his innocence to prove somebody else's innocence doesn't look well. And a lot of people, I'm not a person of color, I can't speak for people of color, but a lot of people of color are saying when you use a white man's innocence to prove a black man's guilt, that looks real racist. So Cory, with 14 million subscribers, has access to a YouTube rep, and he emails his YouTube rep and he asks him, hey, listen, I want to get in on, I want to understand, is there some racism here? Is this been done by human beings? Is this an all automated system? Did somebody make a personal decision? And his YouTube rep basically told him, look, we will look into it, we'll get an answer for you. And after a few days, they re-age restricted the video. They undid what they did, and so now Mark is sitting pretty, and Cory is once again age restricted. Except, believe it or not, a few minutes later, they age restricted Mark's video as well. And I'm just going to let Cory speak for himself here.
They got caught with their pants down. They got called out, and then they had to go back and say, oh, whoa, okay, we see the narrative that he's kind of pushing here. We need to take some steps back. We need to just age restrict them both and be done with it. You thought that I wasn't gonna like talk about this, make a video about it? You realize how bad this looks for you, YouTube. You realize how unfair this comes across.
And I guess it's time for a bit of opinion here. Do I think that Cory's right that this is a perfect example of favoritism of the platform? 110%. Do I think that this is some very unfair treatment for Cory, who's got a channel with 14 million subscribers? Absolutely. As for whether or not it's racist, it's hard for me to say, but I have some theories. But let's talk about what Cory has to say first. Cory goes on to explain that his channel seems to receive more scrutiny than other large channels his size. Obviously, Markiplier's in this example, but other people can play the same games and get different view numbers, even though they have the same sub numbers, get different treatment by the policy team, and it seems really unfair for his channel. And on top of that, he's actually really famous for taking long breaks of content where he doesn't upload for a while, and then when he comes back, his videos perform really well, they don't get flagged, they don't get age restricted, they get premium ads, and then something seems to always happen, which means everything tanks for a while, and that's why he ends up taking another break. And he really doesn't understand why this seems to affect his huge channel with 14 million subscribers more than it does anybody else. And I'm just going to be honest with you, I think the evidence is there that his channel is being treated worse than other channels in the upper echelon along that size. I genuinely think that is accurate. And it's anybody's question as to why that could be. Is it possible that it's racially motivated? Absolutely. Of course it's possible, because there are people involved in the process, and we now know that. And anytime there are people involved in the process, whether it's somebody higher up at YouTube, I feel like it's way less likely there, but maybe someone at the lower end, when their job is to check, do we age restrict this video? Do we demonetize this video? If there's somebody that's looking at a thumbnail, that's looking at an image, looking at a clip, that person could be racist, and they could choose to demonetize and age restrict a black person's videos more frequently. Absolutely, that's possible. But here's the thing, I don't know if that's likely, right? I would think that there's nobody higher up at YouTube that would be racist at all. I've met a lot of people at YouTube. I don't think there's any racism there. But in whatever data centers, call centers, you don't know, but I feel like YouTube would probably have policies in place that say, you got to be fair about these types of things. But that doesn't mean everybody's going to be. I just don't know if it's likely. But do I think it's worth asking the question? Yes. Do I think YouTube should look deeply into this? Yes. Should YouTube make sure that there are policies in place to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen? Yes. And more importantly to me, and I think pretty much everybody on the platform, is they need to start treating everybody fairly. We do not choose and pick who we apply policies to. It needs to be everyone if it's anyone. That's just how the system has to work. If Cory does something that gets him age restricted, if Mark does the same thing, he's got to get age restricted too. If a random YouTuber with 500 subscribers uploads a video and it gets demonetized, Mark's version of that video needs to get demonetized too. I mean, at the end of the day, YouTube has every right to run their business the way they want to, racism aside. They can play favorites if they want to, but they really, really shouldn't. And I think they will launch an investigation into the racism allegations, absolutely. But I hope that they will also launch an investigation into the favoritism problem that YouTube has as well. And if they don't, it's just not going to look good for the platform. And if they do make those changes, and I really hope they do, even though I was the recipient of it for a while, I still hope that they do. It'll probably take a while. Most viewers will probably have moved to TikTok by then. but they'll fix it eventually. But you know what? As usual, that's just one man's opinion. I know I could be wrong, and if I am, you're going to let me know down in the comment section below. While you're down there, do all the YouTube stuff. If you made it to the end of this video, why aren't you subscribed? You should be. You should have definitely dropped a like on this video by now. Have you turned on that notification bell? I would love it if you did, and consider becoming a channel member to help support me in these dark and trying times that we're all living through. But until next time, guys, as always, thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I will speak with you again soon. What that dog doing?